Together, we can make your blonde, blonde. Sheer Blonde Go Blonder Collection by John Frieda lightens and brightens hair 2 full shades to give you your best blonde every day.
Hair talks. Make your statement with Sheer Blonde Go Blonder Collection, only from John Frieda.
Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those kids were fast as lightning. In fact, it was a little bit frightening. But they fought with expert.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Source Material. I am your host, Jesse Starcher, and today on the Radulich Broadcasting Network, we celebrate the recent release of Marvel's newest Netflix series, Iron Fist. This episode is the first of a 2-part series covering a 12-issue story arc published from Marvel in 2014, written and drawn by Care Andrews, titled Iron Fist, The Living Weapon. Joining me are 2 of the Source Material faithful. We've got the patriarch Mark Radulich here this evening, and from the Screaming Boy podcast, Ronnie Adams is here as well. Don't forget to also give that Radulich Broadcasting Network Facebook page a like to stay up on top of all the great podcasts that we have to offer. You can find us at your convenience on blogtalkradio.com, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, or iTunes. Just search Radulich to subscribe to the network that Source Material is a part of. If you'd like to follow me on Twitter, you can do so by finding me at Stiznarkey. Also, the show's Twitter is at SourceMattCast. Okay, everyone, focus that chi. Let's get to it. Oh yeah, by the way, I have it on good authority that my favorite upcycled jewelry and accessory shop, Honeysuckle Rose Creations, is running a contest this month that any geek could love. All you have to do is find them on Facebook and message them to find out the details on how to enter. But hurry, entries close at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on March 25th, and trust me folks, you don't want to miss this. Remember, that's Honeysuckle Rose Creations on Facebook, or check out their online shop at honeysucklerosecreations.com today. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Source Material. We're right here on the YouTube airwaves. If you're tuning in live, thank you very much. If not, that's okay. You could catch it on the Radulich Broadcasting Network here next week sometime, around the 20th of March, I believe. Tonight, we read Iron Fist, okay? Now, we were scrambling because we wanted to find a good Iron Fist story. And admittedly, us 3, I would assume, did not rattle off the top of our head, hey, I got a great story to read. Let's read Iron Fist, The Living Weapon.
No.
Exactly.
No, we did not.
We immediately were scrambling. Of course, Mark, doing his due diligence, trying to find us a good book to talk about. We'll peel back the curtain a little bit and tell you where we get our inspiration.
Let me tell you how the sausage is made here on the Radulich Broadcasting Network. I go on Amazon.
Amazon sausage. Fry it up.
Type in superhero graphic novel. Okay, it's very scientific. And
yeah,
I look at how the books are rated, and this one's. I also agonize a lot of agony in the Radulich Broadcasting Network. I agonize over the right kind of material. I must have spent at least 2 hours trying to find, for a movie that isn't coming out until 2018, by the way, the right Aquaman book. Because it has to have Black Manta in it, but it should have inspired the Aquaman movie in the DC cinematic universe. It should somehow be related to Jeff Johns, if not written by him directly, since he's the one overseeing it. He's the Kevin Feige of the DCEU. And it's like, okay, so I'm like, what book falls into that category? Well, it shouldn't be a volume 2 because then we're starting in the middle like George fucking Lucas. This is my brain, people.
It's a throwback to Casual Hero days with hashtag parameters. That's all Mark has to deal with. It's all parameters. It's got to fit into a box or it's got to be explained.
You know what's the irony of this is I was telling the girl that I was hanging out with today that isn't my wife and her kids and my kids. I don't want to make it seem weird.
Oh, this is getting weird.
Is that weird?
That's weird.
So I went on this date with this broad.
Not weird.
No, not weird at all. And she's telling me about like her shitty dating life. And I was like, man, you're trying to take you and your you Western girls and your linear direct control thinking. You got to be like me, man, more Eastern thinking. Let the waves crash over you and just go with the flow and see where it takes you. You don't got to have to control everything. Meanwhile, listen to
Back at the ranch.
Meanwhile, behind the computer, I'm struggling to come up with an Aquaman book because it doesn't meet the right parameters.
Oh, dude.
Well, I went through this same mental fucking algebra for Iron Fist because I wanted a story that would be good, but that maybe influence the Netflix series since that's the whole impetus of this.
Yeah.
And I like I said, I just did some Google searching and I came upon The Living Weapon. It was a 12-issue arc, and I think was canceled, and rightly so. After 12 issues, it was part of the Marvel Now release. And I thought, hey, I think this is both modern, I think it fits the milieu, I think it's a good encapsulated Iron Fist story because I didn't want one where we would have to be sort of left in the middle of a story. And I was like, yeah, let's go with it. And Jesse was just like, okay, boss. So we did.
Do it. That's right.
And I like to once again say that after choosing this book and insisting that we read it and talk about it, I am sorry.
Well, okay. Well, we're giving it a hard time. And again, we're going to get into the issues here. I don't want to belabor going through this thing issue by issue. That's for sure. Because we got 12 issues on stack. So what I'm planning to do, I'm going to give you guys a synopsis of the first 6. So our listeners out there, be ready, because when I start talking, it's going to be just a brief synopsis of the first 6 issues to give you the gist of, I think, what was called, this thing was split into 2 parts. One was Rage, which I believe is, I think we got a prologue, and then the first 5 issues is Rage.
Very fitting.
Indeed, because you will get you will get mad. And then the second part is our, I guess, finale part. The second part is called Redemption. So
fitting.
Redemption song.
We're going to, so I'm going to kind of break it down that way. And then these guys are going to kind of chime in here at the end, or after I do each synopsis, give us an idea of what they liked about some of those, the big parts that stood out to them in each one of those sections. Now let's talk about Iron Fist first off. We don't know much about Iron Fist. We've already kind of covered that. But, Ronnie Adams, when you think of Iron Fist, have you ever read anything in the past before we touched this book that involved him?
Just some like one-offs and team-ups and stuff like that. I've always kind of liked Iron Fist because he's more of a kind of a Batman character.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's almost identical to Batman and Green Arrow, how his whole origin went down.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I've always liked him because his powers were, not too overboard or anything like that. I guess you could say he's more of an every guy, to steal a phrase from you, he's street level.
Oh yeah.
Even though he's more Eastern, I guess you could say, in his origin. No, I've read some Heroes for Hire. I've read some team. He's had some team ups with, I guess, Spider-Man and a few others, and nothing really crazy sticks out to me off the top of my head. I've just always, he's kind of like Power Man for me. He's just, he's pretty cool, but I never really got into his single issues or anything.
Okay. How about you, Mark?
When I read comics, what I read was related to the subject was Power Man and Iron Fist, or Heroes for Hire. Not a tremendous amount of memory about either. All I can say is I was familiar with the character, but it was not one that I did a lot of following up. Of the Heroes for Hire, take a drink, everybody, because this is one of the rules in the Rattledge and Broadcasting drinking game. The character that I was attracted to and that I wanted to read about was Luke Cage, Power Man, because #BlackFolk.
What?
It's trending.
Oh, God help us all.
What? Wait, why is Ronnie surprised by that? I've done that before.
That's true. I mean, I don't know.
At this point,
leave me alone.
At this point, you shouldn't be surprised when I tell you that I tend to favor the black culture and everything in my media.
I'm really not.
So that being said, I like I said, if you give me a white ninja and a funky black guy with armored skin who beats people up with his fist, I'm going for the black guy. I'm not going for the ninja. A lot of my friends were into ninjas. I wasn't. So Iron Fist to me was the other guy in Heroes for Hire. He's not a character I knew a tremendous amount about or really cared much for. As an adult and being a little more open to things, I'm fine with it. But in all honesty, the big thrill for me is that he's getting his own series on Netflix and he's part of the overall Netflix Defenders presentation. So I'm becoming interested because of that. Okay. As an aside, I liked the little bit that they gave him in the Spider-Man animated show that my son enjoys, where it's him, White Tiger, I think, a more updated version of Power Man and Nova.
All right. Well, as for myself, I am on the blank end of the spectrum. I have no idea about this character. I mean, I may have seen him in a couple stories, but to be honest, I do not even remember reading anything with him in it. It's not like this guy's totally brand new to me. I've known that he's existed. I don't remember him ever being a prominent part of any story that I've ever read. Getting the opportunity to do an Iron Fist story is a learning experience for me. So I looked forward to getting a hold of this graphic novel, or this set of issues, these 12 issues, and discussing them with you guys because I knew I was going to be learning something about a character I've never read about before. Let me go ahead for our listeners. Iron Fist. Okay, I'm going to give you a brief description of who Iron Fist is, kind of give you an idea of his creators, where he first appeared at. Iron Fist, the alter ego of Daniel or Danny Rand. That's pretty much what you're going to hear me being referring to him as tonight will be Danny most of the time, because that's almost the feel of this book really makes it personal for me. Instead of me saying, hey, here's Iron Fist doing this, this actually felt like a lot of stuff that the character Danny Rand was going through, not Iron Fist themselves. The alter ego of Danny Rand. And he first appeared in Marvel Premiere number 15, May of 1974. Created by, and this is straight off of the wiki, Roy Thomas and Gil Kane. So we've mentioned Roy Thomas on here before. I don't think we've read anything from him. I think we might be reading something from Roy Thomas at some point in the future. Or at least that's been thrown out there. I think we were talking Thor Ragnarok at one point, although we may be going for the later iteration of Thor Ragnarok. But anyway, regardless, Roy Thomas at some point will be discussed on this podcast in length. I'm sure we'll get to some story with him in it. So let's talk about his power set. This was the strangest stuff at all. I mean, all I saw was this guy running around, he's got his bandana on and a glowing fist. Okay. I need to know more. So, of course, the Marvel Wiki's got us on lockdown here, and I'm going to read again straight from it. Plunging his fists into the molten heart of the dragon Shao Lao. By the way, pronunciation Nazis. Let's just go ahead.
There's going to be a lot of mumbling.
Yes, there's going to be so many mispronounced names tonight. Like, we're going to have a discussion at first of how we're even going to pronounce Kunlun, which I don't know if that's how you guys are pronouncing it or not, but either way, I don't care how you guys say it. Let's just get that out of the way. You guys say it how you want to say it.
I intend to pronounce it. I intend to be culturally sensitive and pronounce it as the Asians have told us you should pronounce these things. It will be called ham sandwich.
I don't think you're okay. Now,
you know what's funny about that? Not that I said that, because A, that's old hat with me. B,
ham sandwich.
Here's a shock. I'm purposefully racist on this show. What's hilarious is that in the chat that no one else can see, Ronnie makes the same joke and it goes, "It's a good thing I don't do this on the air." And I'm just thinking to myself, like, you asshole, I do it all the time.
No.
Fuck, what do you think?
I don't know what you're talking about. Come on, Radulich.
You're making stuff up now, Mark.
Jeez.
You can actually see Ronnie pulling on his collar right now.
All right. Plunging his fist into the molten heart of the dragon Shao Lao. The Undying, most of my pronunciation came from Mortal Kombat. I shit you not. That's probably how I learned how to pronounce most of these words, was playing Mortal Kombat. Kung Lao, Shao Lao. All right, holy cow.
Shao Kahn?
Shao Kahn? Hey, dude, I'm telling you right now, Mortal Kombat is the basis for what I'm pronouncing things as. Kunlun, guaranteed I'm pulling that from Mortal Kombat somehow. Plunging his fists into the molten heart of the dragon Shao Lao, the Undying infused Shao-Lao the Undying, infused the dragon's superhuman energy into Rand. This, along with being trained by Lei Kung, the Thunderer. Yeah, you ready? Gave Rand the power of the Iron Fist, allowing him to summon and focus his chi. I'm going to call it chi. Focus his chi energy, also called natural energy or life force energy, to enhance his natural abilities to extraordinary levels. His strength, speed, stamina, durability, agility, reflexes, and senses can all be greatly intensified. He is able to concentrate his own chi and the superhuman energy from Shao-Lao's heart into his hand, hence the Iron Fist, with it manifesting as a supernatural glow around his hand and fist. So concentrated, this Iron Fist can strike with superhuman hardness and impact, while his hand becomes impervious to pain and injury. However, summoning the power required by this feat leaves Rand physically and mentally drained. I did not know this. Unable to repeat the act for a time, as long as an entire day in certain instances. Though after years of using the ability, it has become less draining. He can focus his chi inward to heal himself or outward to heal others of injury, as well to give himself psychic senses and to telepathically fuse his consciousness with another person. I can tell you the psychic and the telepathic crap does not happen in this book. All right.
No, but a lot more does.
Chi, 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 chia. So
I've never heard it pronounced otherwise, so I think you're safe on that.
Am I safe? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So there is your description of the power. Thank you very much, Wikipedia, for coming through and educating a non-educated person such as myself. I said it here on source material, non-educated. We talked about why this book, the creators of this book, really there's only one person that's responsible for the art and also responsible for writing this story, Iron Fist, the living weapon, and that is, I have it listed as Hey, how'd you say it earlier, Mark?
Ham sandwich.
There you go. Ham Sandwich Andrews.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were talking about the same.
No.
Care Kyle Andrews.
Care Kyle. Okay. Care Kyle. So here we go. This guy wrote and he also drew this comic. All right.
You just started calling him Ham Sandwich Andrew. It sounds like a hobo.
Luckily,
hey, do y'all know where to get some good hooch around here? I don't know. You gotta ask Ham Sandwich Andrew.
Down on the corner.
Beats the hobo life. Stabbing folks with my hobo knife.
There you go. All right. So, okay, now what else?
And where do you get the idea that he drew this thing? He clearly had a seizure with paints on his lap.
Well, now hold on. I want to give this guy some credit when it comes to the art because there are some times where I'm like, okay, I definitely feel like the art is lacking, but he does some very interesting stuff.
There are some times.
He does some very interesting stuff. I think and I don't know if I'm using the term right here or not, but he does it with some negative space where it looks like, my guess is he ran out of time, but it still looks good. Okay. That's a good criticism. It looks somewhat decent. As we get towards the end of the issues, he seems to rely upon that a little bit more. But hey, I'm going to give Andrew some props. Go ahead.
I know you're trying to be positive, and I know that I'm not helping.
Nope.
But, and I'm sure you're regretting doing this with me now. But I swear to God, you sound like a parent at a parent-teacher conference making excuses for their child.
Oh.
It's not his fault. It's the reason why he tipped the desk over and peed on the kids' homework was because, things are not good at home right now. His dad works a lot.
Listen, this isn't piss artwork. It isn't piss artwork, okay? It's good stuff. And I know Mark Radulich is overblowing it here because he knows for a fact that on his best day, actually, I've never seen you if you've drawn anything before in your life, so I don't know.
Are you comparing the professional artist to me who can't, whose handwriting looks like gang tags?
All right. There we go. I rest my case. No, listen. Compared to other stuff, I'll give you this. Okay, compared to other things that we've seen and what we've read here on source material, this is different. Okay, we'll give it that. I don't hate the art personally. I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's bad, but it could have been better. How's that? I'll give you that. And when you're writing a story and drawing it at the same time,
You ain't giving me nothing.
you're going to have a time crunch on your hands. I assume these came out on schedule. But imagine trying to write a comic and draw it at the same time. Go ahead.
I have breaking news.
Uh-oh. Play the sound effect.
Jones.
Oh, we can't.
Wah, 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 wah.
Yeah, that's our breaking news. Sad trombone. Wah, wah.
So Finn Jones, for those of you who don't know, is the guy that's playing White Iron Fist.
Mm.
He's always been white. Who's playing Whitewashed Iron Fist on Whitewashed Iron Fist next Netflix show. Finn Jones, I'm getting this from comicbook.com. Finn Jones says Donald Trump has something to do with Iron Fist poor reception.
Oh, no. Come
Currently
on.
14% rotten on Rotten Tomatoes, by the way. All right, I'm not even going to read the article, but I just thought I'd share that.
Just set it to the side because I do have that is at the end. I'm going to ask you guys what your expectations are of this.
I had some respect for him for standing up for himself on this whole whitewash thing, but now that's shot.
Donald Trump is responsible for this. I mean,
Donald Trump is responsible for everything. He's responsible for the gates of hell opening up,
apparently,
according to some people. But
so the artwork.
He's responsible for the artwork. The piece of crap that it is.
It's entirely possible.
Let's talk to Ham Sandwich Andrews, and he'll blame Trump as well.
Oh, he'll just tell you where to get a good can of baked beans at.
Donald Trump ghost drew this comic. No.
Oh.
Can I say something about the art that isn't a complete slam?
Yeah.
I think the phrase goes, I don't know art, but I know what I like. And if you like it, that's fine. I'm not going to say that it's bad. Because art is very subjective, and it's not like, as I'm flipping through Rage here, it's not like it's incompetently drawn. It's definitely stylized.
Mm-hmm.
I don't particularly like the style.
Okay.
There's some variant covers in here that I actually think are very well done, but this is going to sound kind of funny, but I know that there are people who like a comic book to look comic booky. You know, they want stylized artwork. I'm kind of a photorealist preference person. I want this to look as close to real as possible, but so in other words, I want someone to draw something fantastic, something completely out of this world, but make it look as real as possible. That's my preference. Those are the art in Old Man Logan, for example, I thought was really good.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't stylized in any way. People looked like people. I could understand what was happening. But by contrast, there's a lot of panels in this that you could actually hang on your wall. They look very interesting and very artistic. It's just not my preference.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Like the first issue, I don't have the art is pretty good. So, but as it goes along, it just, I don't know, it just gets on my nerves really. If you look at page, about 4 there, 3 or 4, the dude looks like Sabretooth. And then as you go along past, Danny Rand present day and to, it just, I don't know. It's good, but I mean, there's just a whole lot going on. You know what I mean?
I sat down here in my basement and I wrote out a synopsis for all of these. I did it because I love this. I love this show. I love this network. Our first 6 issues of Iron Fist: The Living Weapon. 2014 is when this came out. I think it was 2013, 2014, in between there. But anyway, okay. As a child, Daniel Rand was orphaned in a series of tragic events during his father's attempt to find the mystical city of Kunlun. Young Danny was rescued and raised by the inhabitants of Kunlun, growing into a warrior who defeated the dragon Shao Lao, we've heard that name before, to gain the power of the Iron Fist. But instead of joining his adopted people in an immortal paradise, he chose to leave, seeking revenge for his parents' death. Now, fast forward to present time. Danny finds out that there is a problem in Kunlun when a young wounded monk girl named Pei, I'm going to pronounce her Pei, Pei, shows up seeking him out. Traveling to Kunlun through a portal in his very own building, by the way, Rand Tower.
And it begins.
Danny finds it laid to waste. Kunlun is destroyed. Seeking the shadowy person that led the attack, Danny finds an incomprehensible hulking figure as the man responsible. But there's a catch. It bears the face of his deceased father. Danny cannot fathom this thing as really being his father and realizes it is a deadly warrior called the One, a champion that those asking to be keeper of Kunlun must face as a challenge to earn that title. Danny engages in combat with the One, but it is all for naught, as his iron fists have no effect. And in one swift act, the One grabs and crushes Danny's hands. But before the killing blow could be struck, an old monk named Fu, Fu, rescues him from the clutches of the One, taking him away to rest, also under the care of the watchful eye and help of a childhood friend named Sparrow. So that's pretty much our first 6 issues. Now, there's some side plot stuff going on, especially with Pei, which you guys are more than welcome to talk about, but that's the gist of our first 6 issues. I told you, I truncated that crap down to a small paragraph.
You definitely made it intelligible because I got more out of you doing it than actually reading it.
Yeah, well, I can tell you right now, and I'll just go ahead and start this fun train we're going to have. My biggest criticism of these, almost of the story as a whole, but I'll say for these first 6 issues is just drawing stuff out. I mean, we're just continually, it just feels like we're taking one little thing that could have been in 2 or 3 issues. Instead, we've got to make it 6. And I don't know if that was actually the intent, was to tell a short, small story, but they said, no, we can make this a 12-issue arc. And then we get this.
I think my biggest criticism of the book in general, and it's more offensive in Raids than it is Redemption, is the non-linear nature of the storytelling.
Yes.
The sudden stop of the narrative, the constant flashbacks, the flashbacks within a flashback. It's all very muddled. One of the I read a lot of criticisms on Goodreads.com. And if you're wondering, why did you go to Goodreads.com? Because I had to find someone who could summarize the fucking plot for me.
Tell me what the hell's going on.
I have a master's degree and I couldn't figure this shit out.
Oh.
Honors English for all 4 years of high school. And I'm like, I like cheese. I have no idea what's going on in this book. So,
I do like cheese, though.
Cheese is delicious, along with pie.
Cheese pie.
Exactly. I was reading some reviews on Goodreads, and that was kind of the consensus, especially for Rage, which was, it's not that you can't do a nonlinear story. So, here's an example, it's a film example. Drink, everybody. I'm the film guy. Quentin Tarantino told a nonlinear story in Pulp Fiction, and I remember talking about it in one of my film classes when I was in college. Yeah, I'm one of those people. And it was and we had a discussion over if you were to re-edit Pulp Fiction so that it was linear, what's the beginning and what's the end of the movie? Who's the protagonist? Who's the antagonist? Who are the side characters? Not who are the stars? Who are the protagonists and antagonists? Quentin Tarantino, despite the fact that it was non-linear, did a good job of shouldering the narrative and telling a story that still made sense despite the constant shooting back and forth through time and space. You have to have a deft hand to tell that kind of a story. Ham Sandwich Anders doesn't. He's just all...
Now we're just not even going to call him what he actually... any part of his name at all.
Did I call him Anders?
Yes, you did. That's all right.
Okay.
Ham sandwich.
Shuck Oyster Finn. It's like...
We're looking for sponsors.
He's just all... It's like he wrote it with ADHD, non-medicated. When he's just all over the place. And it would be fine if it worked. I wouldn't criticize it. But it doesn't. I feel like every time the story starts to get going, it stops very suddenly. It's like sitting in bumper-to-bumper traffic, and then you're into this flashback, and it's like, I don't learn any more about these characters as you go through this by this method. It's just a very confused, muddled story. And that's just the beginning of my frustration with reading this.
It's a good point that you're making there, because nonlinear storytelling works if you can make it relatable to the story and tell it as a whole. What I felt when I would see this thing do a flashback or whatever, every once in a while you got a flashback that added to the story. You're like, oh, okay, now I kind of see where we're going here. But then a lot of times when we were doing a flashback, I was lost. I was like, okay, what is this? And then we'd go forward in time, and I'm trying to relate the two. I'm trying to relate the flashback to why, okay, we just skipped forward. What's going on here? I don't know what it was, if it was the style of writing, but I did not follow. I didn't follow.
I watched Lost, and I didn't have a clue what was going on in this story.
All right. I mean, that was it. But me personally, I always feel that I got to jump to the defense of Lost. I enjoyed the way Lost did that.
I love Lost.
Okay.
And you know, that was my show. But you can't tell me that it wasn't confusing at times.
At times, yes.
You cannot tell me. So you had to really be involved in it to understand what was going on. You know, flashbacks, flash forwards, flash sideways. It was crazy at times. Even with this was like excessive. You know, I didn't have a clue what was going on. So
Can I throw a word out there and see if you guys agree with me? And I'm not going to do a monologue on it. I'm just going to say the word, give you guys a chance to sort of breathe it in and decide whether or not you agree. As far as this book, this story, this whole shebang is concerned, self-indulgent?
Mm-hmm. I can get down with that.
When you say that, what explain what you mean? I mean, go into. Do you feel that the writer is being self-indulgent, or
yeah?
Okay.
So I'm all for art. I really am. I know I'm the guy that likes the boom explosions, but I'm really not that shallow of a film person. I enjoy a good art project, but not every movie that is artistic in its attempt succeeds.
Okay.
I will stand by the fact that The Lobster sucks, and I'll fight anyone that disagrees with me. But The Lobster's terrible.
I will not fight you because I have not seen that.
Oh, you want to waste 2 hours of your life and then demand it back? Go watch The Lobster. Now, I'm being a little harsh, but I mean, if you liked it, that's fine. But I just not. It's like
apparently not.
No, I what I'm trying to say, I guess poorly, is that there is this sense I get in certain situations where because something was indie or because something was artfully done, there's this propped up idea of, okay, well, it has to be good then. Not necessarily. Just because you did something with an air of competence doesn't necessarily make it good or entertaining. And at the end of the day, you could create this beautifully artistic, expressionist, postmodern thing and not entertain a single person on earth. And the only people giving it good thoughts, good critique, are people who tend to inflate that sort of thing. And so when I say this is self-indulgent, I feel like this is just the writer just sitting there with his pants off, drawing this comic and writing with one hand, jerking off in the other, talking about how great he is. And it's like, and I'm like, why? It's like, no, instead of this just feels like
Had a bad joke.
Keep it to yourself, Starcher.
It brings new meaning to a splash page.
Keep it to yourself, Starcher.
Boom.
You should be ashamed of yourself.
I will conclude this rant by saying,
please do. It's going.
This feels like a dumb person's attempt to create something artful, and it's just like, no, you didn't create anything special here. You created a bunch of nonsense with a bunch of splash color.
Okay. Here's my problem with really, crapping all over ham sandwich. Andrews here. My thing is that I'm coming into this character brand new. I have no idea about the history of who Danny Rand is or who Iron Fist is, what his powers are, where the hell he came from. I mean, that probably, honestly, was the biggest mystery to me at all, overall. When it comes to the storytelling and the art itself combined, I can't give him too much of a hard time because I don't know what came before this. I don't think I can't successfully sit here and say, well, he's crapping on the legacy of Iron Fist, which I know that's not what you're saying, Mark. You're saying that what he's doing here is more of an artistic expression and trying to get this story across in a different way. I don't know. I don't feel, to me, it doesn't come off like that to me. Okay. Self-indulgent. I don't know. I don't know about this guy's work. I'd love to see what else he's done just to maybe say, okay, well, hey, he hasn't done something this bad before. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say.
What happened?
What happened to you, man? But clearly a lot of people dug this. Marvel Now, correct me if I'm wrong. You said this was a Marvel Now book, right? Because wasn't that where they tried to kind of like relaunch, or at least it was a jumping on point for most people who read Marvel? Ronnie, do you know?
To my knowledge, yes.
Okay, all right. I want to go ahead and go along with you there. This is his attempt to get across somewhat of an origin story, which I think it somewhat successfully does. Here in our first, I thought when I read the first issue of this series, I really dug it. I'll tell you that right now, because we started at the beginning, or at least we had a bit of a story told, which, okay, it was, a reporter by the name of Brenda comes to Danny, tell me your story. And he tells her his story, about his, father falling from a precipice as they were going to go find Kunlun. And I was like, okay, I can dig this. I can dig it. And then all of a sudden, as we started going through issues 2 and 3, things just got weird. Now, is that because of, I can't say if that's because Andrews is trying to tell a part of the mythos, and I just never heard it before, and this is a spin on the mythos, and it's, oh man, this guy's being revolutionary and doing something new with Iron Fist. I could say he made it interesting at first, but then shit got weird. When we started talking about Chi, that's a whole cultural separation. And really that doesn't feel like, I don't know. Did you get the feeling, Mark, when they were telling this backstory of Danny trying to grow up in Kunlun? He was definitely a white guy out of his element.
Yeah, look, I don't think the story itself is that bad. Towards the end it gets a little bizarre, but I think in general, I said this to you guys in our chat earlier. There's a solid story somewhere in the bedrock of this series of comics.
I agree.
It's just, they took a series, they took what started out as, I think, a solid story, and then it was like, okay, we're going to tell this story, but we're going to tell it in this weird, non-linear way. We're going to spend a lot of it just sort of with meandering dialogue. I don't know if that's the technical term you're supposed to use in comics when it's that box-lettered stuff and it's in the character's mind.
Oh, okay.
But there was a lot of that, especially in Redemption, and I had to skip those pages after a while. Where it was like, oh, okay, fucking more Danny Rand, in his inner monologue, his endless inner monologue. So, like I said, it's like, I don't fault the story as such. I think there's a really good story here. It's just told shitty.
It's just weird. It's not how I wanted to be, introduced to my first solo story by, of Iron Man. Because it truly is my first solo story. Or Iron Fist.
It's catching on.
Starcher.
What did we get here? Now, there's one thing that I totally left out of my synopsis. Like I said, we kind of left some side story out. And we're going to get to that. Because, boy, do I have I have myself a nice little last issue bit that we're going to go on. But, there's a character by the name of Brenda who shows up in these first 6 issues. That's the reporter I had mentioned, or I don't know, some girl who's investigating the backstory of Danny Rand. And her whole story throughout this arc, especially these first 6 issues, I did not understand why in the world she was part of what was going on these first 6. Did you guys have any hints without giving the final bit away when we hit the final issue? But was that building up in any way with what she was doing in these issues?
I thought it was a narrative device at first.
Funny you use that word, building.
Wah, wah.
Well, there it is.
I just thought it was an interesting narrative device. It was, hey, we're going to tell you the story of Iron Fist, and so it's a common enough trope to have your protagonist talking to a reporter of some kind. I didn't realize she would become an integral part of a weird side chase story.
Yeah.
When we get to the end of the book and what she does and how it came completely out of fucking left field, I want to talk about how there's a great story to be had there, but it's kind of it's kind of the Lucas way of telling a story where you're just like, where did that come from? Why are we in the? It's just like, hey, here's a story where I'm only going to tell you the end of it. Like, all right,
yeah. I remember just reading, and what they would do is they would show you what's going on with Danny. Danny, he went over to Kunlun, and he had his fight with the One, and then of course got his ass handed to him, his hands handed to him, and he gets we kind of keep up with that main part of the story, but it's like they had to find something to fill it with. Okay, here's Brenda, here's Detective Lee, and here's Pei, and they're over here on Earth, and well, of course, one thing that I forgot to add to that brief synopsis of issues 1 through 6 was how at the end, the One decides to bring over a guy by the name of Davos, which that's another character that I've never heard of before, but apparently is very prominent, I would assume, in the mythos of, well, I'd hate to say that and him be actually created for this story, but he seemed like he'd been there for a while. Davos is like this villainous character who I would assume is Danny Rand's rival or Iron Fist's rival from Kunlun. But anyway, Davos and the One come over. They come through the breach, once more onto the breach, through Rand Tower, and they have decided they're going to set up a new Kunlun on Earth. So we have Brenda, Detective Lee, and Pei, who Davos is trying to capture. She was wounded by Pei in these, what'd they call them? Like, I can't remember crazy monks or something. Dark monks? I can't remember. But anyway.
Crazy monks.
Crazy monks and their arrows. We have this whole side thing going on, and there's a dragon involved too. I don't even want to get into that, but there is. And although the dragon is kind of important because it causes something towards the end.
It's cool that you get to see the backstory of Iron Fist. You don't get to see that very much. To me, he's always been a character that's been kind of thrown in along with other people.
It's
There's
true.
something positive.
That's true. Did you know anything about his powers before we really went into this?
Some of them I knew about, but some of them, I didn't know that he got tired after, I went on to say that he wasn't overpowered, but then you started listing all stuff that I didn't know about, and I was like, well, holy crap, I didn't know that about him. I knew he could heal himself and heal others through the power of the Iron Fist, but I did not know that it would make him tired.
Okay. All right, well, let's go ahead. We'll hop into issues 7 through 12. I'm going to do 7 through 11, and then we'll talk about the epilogue here.
Well, we probably talk about how Rage ends, because it's very important in setting up the next book. I mean, you alluded to it when you're like, oh, we got his hands handed to him.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, in reality, he goes back to free Kunlun from whatever dictatorship has taken over, and he fights. I guess it's Davos. I honestly couldn't follow what was happening. I just know that he attempts to use the Iron Fist power, and he destroys his hands. He shatters his bones. So he loses that fight, and he has his hands smashed, and he's sort of just left a broken, battered. There's actually, when I was talking to Gavin from formerly the Casual Heroes Bunkhouse Stampede online about this, and we were talking about covering this book. There was a picture that he had sent me. Might have been a variant cover, might have been an actual cover. And he was like, oh, was it this one? And I didn't know it at the time because I hadn't read it yet. But it's the picture of a pained and distraught Iron Fist with his hands smashed in a crouching position.
Yeah.
And this is what I mean by, I'd hang that on my wall. It's as unrealistic as it looks. It's also artfully done. This is what I mean by this is another example of self-indulgent. There's a lot of really interesting stuff here, but I don't know if it always adds to the narrative at all. This particular picture is fine. Probably not the best example of what I'm talking about, but this is what Gavin had sent me. So this is sort of sparking the discussion. But anyway, it's the smashing of the hands and the breaking of his body that sets up the next book. So Rage, an important element of Rage is that, and because it's a line constantly repeated throughout the story, I was given an opportunity to choose, I think it's life or death, and I chose death. What he's saying is, he gets orphaned in Kunlun after both of his parents die. His dad falls off a cliff. Mom gets eaten by wolves.
I'm sorry, I don't know why that's funny to me.
There's another guy, Meacham, who I guess, and I didn't really understand how this came to be, but he's kind of getting blamed for this family getting killed on this excursion, even though the dad was the one going crazy trying to find Kunlun. But that's neither here nor there. Just kind of accept on face that Danny somehow harbors resentment and wants to seek vengeance against Meacham for the death of both of his parents and, the causing him to be stranded in Kunlun and trained to be a ninja. So he becomes the Iron Fist, and it's like, okay, well, you can stay and be the Iron Fist of Kunlun, or you can seek vengeance. You can choose death and go after Meacham. And he was like, I'm choosing death. And, vengeance shall be mine. And he finds Meacham, and Meacham's like a broken shell of himself, and not worth killing, which is, again, an important element when you get to the very end of the story. Mm-hmm. So
it leaves his psyche somewhat scarred, which is interesting stuff. I just wish it was told better. I shouldn't have to, like, 3 times in a single sentence go, and I really couldn't follow what was happening. I like the idea. I like the intent of, we raised you up with honor and power, mystical power of the ancient Asians, and you use it to settle a petty vengeance score, you immature child.
Yeah.
Which is great grist for the mill. You know, it's a great story. It's just, like, not told very well. But that all kind of comes back in the second book, as one of the 57 different side plots.
Bonus! Part 1 of our coverage is over, but up next is a bit of extra content we felt couldn't be left out. This podcast was recorded about a week prior to Iron Fist releasing on Netflix. So up next is our talk about the series coming to the TV screen. Enjoy!
Can I go to the bathroom? I don't have a pencil.
Asshole! Netflix, the series is coming up. It's coming up this week. We're recording. Well, when's it releasing? Next week, 17th.
All right, calm down. Take a breath there, Jesse. You're having a stroke. What I'd like to say right now is that Beauty and the Beast comes out this Friday, the 17th, and on the same day, Iron Fist drops on Netflix.
There we go. That's what I was looking for.
We will be having a TV party tonight on March 23rd to discuss the series. I feel like, just from reading some of the Rotten Tomatoes reviews, a lot of the criticism of the show comes from 2 different places. It's a little samey. You know, after 3 Netflix shows, 4 if you count the second season of Daredevil, that were very different from each other. I mean, if you're leaving out the misogynistic, you know, He-Man, She-Woman hater club type folks who hated Jessica Jones because it was about a woman walking around in her underwear with PTSD. I'm looking in your direction, Gavin. If you leave out that segment of the audience, that doesn't count. You know, Jessica Jones was well received because it did deal with a lot of deep-seated, often ignored issues within the female community, for those who have been abused, those who have, you know, suffered in varying degrees in relationships or in the culture in general. You have Luke Cage, #BlackFolks,
which trending,
you know, which was a noir stylized show that was modernized in the sense that, you know, this is in the wake of a long string of cop on black crime. And so you have sort of a postmodern superhero who can't be killed by a cop because his skin's iron. You know, so it was very much a metaphor, you know, in terms of having a folk hero for #BlackFolks. And the show worked, unless you're one of those people who hates music, in which case the whole thing was like, you know, a concert that just never ended. Winfrey. And you're wrong.
I totally identified with that criticism. My gosh.
Oh, you're all wrong and you hate blacks in music.
All right, then.
And then you have Daredevil, which is kung fu fighting, you know, and, you know, but stylized violence and fighting, and people, white kids like that sort of thing, and I get it. So that's fine. You know, some dude in his pajamas fighting in a hallway. Oh, everyone, let's jerk off. I get it. I get how everyone enjoyed that. What I'm saying is you had 4 series already that set a precedent that, hey, these characters are not just going to be characters. Each show is going to be a noir or a representation of something very stylized, really give the audience something to bite into. And then Iron Fist comes along and it felt like more of the same. I don't think the people watching it, and I can't tell you because I haven't seen it yet, but just reading the criticism, I think a lot of it was, we've seen this 1,000 times before. You know, we've already got the rich white guy who's a ninja. That's Arrow. So, and then I think the other side of it is critics who don't understand or know what the Iron Fist character is. It's like, oh, look, another ninja, another Asian character who was whitewashed. Like, they're still pissed that the Ancient One was a Celtic woman.
Yeah.
In Doctor Strange.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of, why can't we have more non-white superheroes to reflect, billions of people across the world who aren't white? Which, that's a whole other topic, and I'm not going to get into it now, but that's where a lot of the criticism is coming from, which doesn't really tell you whether or not the show is any good.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to end up liking the show because I'm not caught up in, how they cast characters. I don't give a fuck that, Mary Jane in the next Spider-Man movie I think is Hispanic. Who gives a shit? And if they had casted...
What?
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I don't care. I don't care.
So, oh boy. If they had casted Iron Fist as a paraplegic, blind, fucking Mongolian, not Mongoloid, Mongolian.
Good night, folks.
I'm not being anything. I said Mongolian from Mongolia. I honestly wouldn't have cared.
I like Mongolian beef.
I do. It's good stuff. My point is, I don't get caught up in the minutia of wherever you would file whitewashing and all of that. I just want to know if it's a good story. And they haven't let me down yet. It's 4 seasons of Netflix shows. When you throw that up against the other shows I watch on Netflix, like Orange is the New Black, I haven't really come across a lot of Netflix content that I didn't. So my expectations, if I had to gun to my head, narrow this down to 10 words or less, I think it'll be fine.
Okay. Ronnie Adams, what do you think, man? You excited? Are you worried? Okay.
No, not at all, because I think the whole whitewashing issue is ridiculous. These are obviously people that have no clue about the history of this character or the book or anything that are complaining about this. And it shows because, one, the series isn't even out yet. And two, most of the complaints that I've heard have been that exact complaint. It's not about the storyline. It's not about anything else. It's about, oh my gosh, Danny Rand is white and this is supposed to be blah, blah, blah. I'm excited for it because he's one of those characters that has not been given his due, in my opinion. And he definitely wasn't given his due in this book. But I think it would be interesting. I think it's going to be fun. I'm a big martial arts movie fan, so I think this is going to be another winner.
All right, good deal. Well, I for one am glad that I got this little bit of at least a little bit of a taste of what possibly awaits us there in the episodes. I don't think they're pulling anything directly from this series for those episodes, but regardless, I'm sure we're going to see elements of the origin, elements of his power set, elements of the mysticism and all that. So I kind of have a better idea of what I'm going to be getting into. I look forward to the fact that we've had very successful and somewhat decent shows by the Marvel Netflix. I'm kind of excited as well. I hope the critics are wrong, because I want to see a successful Marvel universe. I would hate to see this one go down as a really bad. I don't want to see my Marvel TV get taken away because of a bad season of something.
Are you out of your mind? Are you crazy?
Okay.
First of all, they're following this up this summer. Get ready, because we're going to have to do a book on it. A 8-episode Defender series and Punisher later in the year. And then after Punisher, they're already working on, what the next slate of Netflix shows are going to be. And I think they're expanding how you're going to get to these shows. I remember what it said in the article exactly, but there was something along the lines of Marvel and Netflix are now trying to reimagine how they can expand their slate of shows and your availability to watch them so that they can get the shit out faster and more of it. So even if this trips and falls, there's so much stuff there's so many irons in the fire already that the next 6 shows would have to fail for them to stop.
There is a very real fear for me that we are going to get too much. We're going to have overexposure of all of these superhero films and TV shows to where not only is it going to result in many people not wanting to have anything to do with the superhero genre, or just being like, okay, I've seen that one already 1,000 times. I'm not going to give that, I'm not going to give that a chance. Just like you were saying with those critics. Well, we got Green Arrow. What do we need Iron Fist for? Well,
critics are dumb though.
Yeah, that's right. However, there are people out there that are just as dumb, and they're going to make a decision because they have, they've seen it before. And I think that at one point, of course, I've been saying this since probably the sequel to Avengers, that we're going to probably hit a bubble at some point where these types of films are going to go the way of the Western. I hate to say that. I think it may be a while. I'm sure the Westerns were around for quite a while, but you get too much exposure to one type of a film. You need to keep it varied. And as soon as one flops, people are going to start pointing to that one and saying, well, this one wasn't good. Just like when Marvel was at the top of the game with comics, and then something changed. And that was events like Civil War II, where they kept going to the well too many times. And then all of a sudden now DC's taking over when it comes to Marvel, because all of a sudden people are jumping on the bandwagon. I don't want to say bandwagon, but they're looking at things with a more critical eye and watching how people and companies are redoing things over and over. It's not going to take much. I have that fear. Now, I know you. Yes, please.
Counterpoint to that.
Go ahead.
So there's a Cloak and Dagger series in production. There's a Runaway series. There's a Runaway series in production,
which makes me happy.
There's there's something else I think that they're already working on. They expanded from 1 to 2 to I think 4 Arrowverse shows. I don't know if and they've all been continued for next year, which makes Arrow on its 6th season, Supergirl on its 3rd, Flash on its 4th, and Legends on its 3rd. Mm-hmm. Here's the thing. I get what you're talking about with overexposure. There's a thing in wrestling about you don't want to kill the territory.
Yeah.
On the other hand, you have to understand that traditional television is dying. You have executives that are scrambling for content that they can easily throw together and grab eyeballs before the way of traditional television dies completely and everything goes to streaming and on the internet, which is pretty much where it's headed anyway. And they have discovered that the quickest way to do that is with comic book content because you've already got a built-in audience and name recognition. This isn't going anywhere anytime soon.
Okay. All right. Well, I hope that's the case. That's
real quick. How many shows have gone from your basic traditional viewing to streaming now?
I know personally.
No. I mean, like, how many shows have been made? That may have got canceled off of CBS or somewhere that have gone to Netflix.
Okay, I have that list.
Do you?
Yep.
Because I know. What's that one show I never watched with Michael Cera?
Arrested Development.
Arrested Development was one of them.
Never watched an episode.
Longmire was one, and I actually enjoyed Longmire. I don't know what about it was, but I really got into it, and it was also good to see Lou Diamond Phillips working again.
Okay. So these are continuations. These shows have been picked up by Netflix for additional seasons after having aired previously on seasons on another network. Arrested Development, Star Wars The Clone Wars, The Killing, Trailer Park Boys, DreamWorks Dragons, Longmire, Black Mirror, Lovesick, Mystery Science Theater 3000.
See, and it just tickles me pink that Mystery Science Theater 3000 is getting another go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're absolutely right. The traditional TV is going the way of the dodo. I mean, it's going to be gone. DirecTV, which I'm a customer of, has already opened up their own streaming service, like the Sling TV and all this, and what was the other streaming TV service? But Sling TV, DirecTV Now, they're all streaming, and you get to choose your package.
Okay.
Let me share something from my old boss that I used to work for, name of Robert Zakari. You might know him by his nom de plume, Rob Black of whatever the name of his horrible porno company was. But he was also the name.
I love Mark's porno stories. Go ahead.
Extreme Associates. He was also the founder of the short-lived and terrible XPW wrestling. So he obviously made porn videos. Well, then he got into the wrestling, and he was like, okay, well, we're going to film all this stuff, and we're going to make videos. And we all kind of, and all of us kind of sat under the learning tree of Robert Zakari and learned, the ancient wisdom of the pornographer, which went something like, stores got to have shit on their shelves to sell. When we didn't think anyone would fucking buy an XPW tape. But he made a good point. Back when people actually went to the video store to buy a VHS tape, for home viewing, stores needed, you can't just sell 50 million copies of The Empire Strikes Back. You got to have other shit to sell.
Mm-hmm.
And so they looked for videos like the ones Rob made. They wanted the XPW stuff, and it sold. I mean, I'm not saying it was like Avatar money, but people bought this shit. And he's absolutely right. You must have shit to sell. That's somewhat by law. The reason why like HBO and Showtime have all this original content is because they have to. You have to have you have X amount of percentage of what you're airing has to be original content. But the other side of that is, if you look at like Netflix and Hulu, why sign up for these things just for the repeated streaming? They found that more people will sign up for Netflix for the original content, exclusive content. You can only watch Orange is the New Black in one place, and that's Netflix. Yep. Daredevil, Punisher, The Defenders.
I don't use Netflix for movies anymore.
Mm-hmm.
No, if I catch one on there that I've enjoyed in the past, I'll watch it again. But I'm not going to sit here and watch it over and over and over. I absolutely agree. I'll watch it for the new stuff that they're putting out, the original content. I went against my better judgment, and I watched Adam Sandler's new movies on there. I mean, he got signed to like a 6-picture deal or something, which was ridiculous, and they weren't good, but
you had to watch them to confirm that.
They were new, and they were, it was something I couldn't watch anywhere else. So might as well go ahead and.
They are hungry for content.
Yeah.
And when you have a company like Marvel, who has, how many years has Marvel been in existence? In terms of character, like, okay, from the
Stan Lee's like 900 years old.
Okay, let's say Spider-Man is the first day of Marvel. Okay, when did Spider Amazing Stories, whatever the fuck, came out?
Wow.
1963, I think.
Okay, so 1963 to 2000, 2002, 2017. Let's round up. We're like 60 years in here.
Mm-hmm.
That's 60 years of content. Not all of it good, but it's content.
Passable.
That they're repackaging and refurbishing and giving to people to expound upon. You know how many failures they would have to be in a row before someone said, "Tell Marvel to shove it up its ass. We don't want it anymore."
I hear you. I really do. So we're going to get plenty of content. That's okay. So I guess I see what you're saying there. My fear may be unfounded that we may not have Iron Fists season 5 or whatever. But
that you may not get because fuck white people. But if they recast Iron Fist as as a Korean midget, sure.
I don't need to laugh at that.
That's a totally awesome Hulk joke, everybody.
Yeah.
Or I remember what it was like growing up wanting all these shows, and now that we have them, that's just one of those things. Oh, I got what I want. I finally get a Punisher TV show that I really enjoy. I'm just always deathly afraid that something's going to take it away from me. So that's
your own psychological stuff.
That's
man.
a personal problem.
Go get counseling.
I hear you.
Are we going to talk about the article I brought up before, or should I just close that page?
Which article?
Finn Jones says Donald Trump has something to do with Iron Fist bad reviews.
Yes.
You want to know what this is?
We need to know what this is about.
I
want a detailed explanation here. Finn Jones. Who is this guy? This is the guy that's playing Iron Fist, right?
Yep. Old Mop Top. There's no denying it. 2017 has been a rocky year for international politics. Controversies galore have sprung from federal initiatives from dozens of countries. Last week, really? What the fuck? Let's get on with this. The political landscape is a dangerous one at the moment and has become a source of misery for many, both domestically and abroad. And now one actor has connected Trump's controversial role as president to the dwindling reviews for Marvel's Iron Fist.
He connected it. Oh, I can't wait. What evidence does he have?
During a recent interview with Radio Times, Jones took a moment to discuss Iron Fist and its critical reception. Over the last week, several reviews of the Netflix title have hit the internet, and their contents are less than encouraging. When asked about the reviews and people's hesitation to embrace Iron Fist's privileged background, here's what Jones had to say. I think the world has changed a lot since we were filming that television show. You filmed it last week. Calm the fuck down. Jones said.
The world has changed.
The world is not what it once was. We're living in the Logan era. I'm playing a white American billionaire superhero at a time when the white American billionaire archetype is public enemy number one, especially in the U.S. Yes, Arrow's having the same problem, you fucking idiot. We filmed the show way before Trump's election, and I think it's very interesting to see how the perception now that Trump's in power, how it makes it difficult to root for someone coming from white privilege. Are you fucking kidding me? When that archetype is public enemy number one. Oh, sad Caucasian.
Like there wasn't fucking billionaires before Trump took presidency. Yeah. Okay,
I'm gonna write a show called Everybody Hates Batman.
Right.
Let me see if the executives pick up what I'm putting down. Fuck out of here, Finn Jones.
Wow. Look, if you feel that the world has changed that much since you've filmed the show, I don't know. Well, I guess your acting career's over, at least for the next 4 years.
Oh my God! You know, if it's one group of people I feel bad for in Hollywood, it's white people. They're so disadvantaged.
Oh, unbelievable.
Especially white men. God.
Ronnie, you got anything to add?
Oh, no.
All right. He's disgusted.
That whole.
Well, I, for one, am going to be watching the new Iron Fist show, even though this guy seems to
be a total douche.
Of course, I have, I have my white privilege in order to sit down and watch in my home on my big screen TV. Ronnie's muted himself. He's throwing up right now. He's muted himself.
Please end this show with No Effects Kill All the White Man instead of Redemption Song.
Oh, okay.
Kill all the white man.
I'm actually stress eating.
You stress eating?
Yeah, I went to get Sun Chips because I'm trying to just do anything I can to not say anything.
I hear you. So there it is, ladies and gents, the end of part 1 to our 2-part episode covering Iron Fist, the Living Weapon. I hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast and hope you can make it next Monday to catch our coverage conclusion. Until then, everybody, have a good one.
And now, insurance-minded speeches from Geico.
It's a common expression, don't look a gift horse in the mouth. However, what if the horse's mouth is filled with useful insurance tools? This is the exact case with the Geico app. Yes, the app is free and therefore a gift horse. However, look inside the app and behold, emergency roadside assistance, digital ID cards, bill pay. Get the Geico app. Look it in the mouth, get amazing services. Thank you.